Well, hello, sports fans. I'm Larry Eater, RunBlogRun. This is your favorite program, Athletics Chat. It's number 80. The good-looking guy in the middle is Stuart Weir. He's got a new sweater on today, and his earphones look quite, professional. And Stuart, greetings and salutations.
Hello. Well, I think we ought to try and have something that looks a bit professional.
That's true. That's true. I know. I did my whole collared shirt thing today. Oh, and then we should alert our kind readers that today is December 13th, and next week, the 19th, and the following week, we will be on holiday because that's what we do. And our 81st show will be in 2022.
Right.
All right. So, Stuart, good to see you. And yesterday, December 12th, was the European Cross Country Championships in Dublin. Now, was the park called Fingal, or was Fingal the area?
I'm not absolutely sure, but certainly it's been called Fingal.
Okay, so it was in Fingal, and Ireland had some great performances, and the crowd was fantastic. And on social media, the ever loquacious Tim Hutchings, announcer for Eurosport and for in the U.S., we even find him charming. Fourth place in the 5 back in '84 was good. So
just to clarify, are we talking about the event in which Britain won 5 gold medals, 8 medals overall, and topped the medal table? Is that the event we're talking about?
That we are, dear friend, and now you get to wax on politically about Great Britain.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think what I would say is it was a good decision to take the event seriously. We took a team of 40 athletes, and we managed to take up the team gold medal in the women's senior race. And, Jess Judd finished 4th, just outside the individual medal. But Jess is one of these runners who always gives her all. She's not been on funding, and she has not been slow in expressing disappointment at times about that. But just a really wholehearted runner, and she, alongside Jenny Nesbitt and Jess Gibbon, got the team prize. And then we managed to pick up the gold in the individual under 20s, Megan Peake and Charles Hicks, a very British lad. I mean, we ignore the fact that he's lived in the States for the last 7 years and that he trains at Stanford and all that. He's very British, really. And then we won the mixed relay. And what was really nice was to see Alex Bell running in that, because Alex came 4th in our trials in the 800. Then Laura Muir decided that she didn't want to do the 800 in Tokyo. Alex got into the team and she reached the final running a PR. So well done her, and great to see her using, in her words, using the cross country as part of our winter training. And then we also took the team gold in the men's under 20. But, one of the great things about this event was Jakob Ingebrigtsen being there. Because, nothing at all against anybody else, but a number of the people finishing high up would not be people who would have a great track career. But great to see Jakob taking this as seriously as the Olympic final. And I mean, all the reports about the event seem to be very positive. It was well organized, it was big crowds, that the host nation did well. And did I mention that Britain got 5 gold medals?
You did, but I think that subliminal thing, I think you need to continue doing that.
Yeah. Well, keep mentioning the 5 gold medals.
That was pretty darn impressive.
On top of the medal table as well. Yeah. So, I mean, Norway, interestingly, won the men's and women's with the Grovedal or something like that. My Norwegian pronunciation is not good.
Caroline Grovedal, yes.
Yeah. And she was, that was the fifth time she's been on the podium, the first time she did gold. So there's a nice human story as well. So Norway won the two senior ones, but only had the two golds, unlike another nation and two modest to mention having five. But yeah, a good event. And you were saying just before we went on the air that the TV coverage was good and so on.
I thought it was spectacular. One of the real kudos we have to give is our friends at European Athletics really have upped their game in terms of how they handle media. And I always compare any streaming to the sub 2 hour broadcast that Nike did back in, I think it was 2017. I was down in Doha after the night after the meet, and I stayed up all night. And that night, watching the 2 hour broadcast, we got 275,000 impressions as I wrote back and forth about what was going on. And what I noticed in the broadcast this time, one, the quality was spectacular. Cathal Dennehy and I think it was Hannah England did the announcing. And I had never heard Hannah that I knew before. Wonderful. Her and Cathal worked really well together. And Cathal's always fantastic. He's a fine writer, keen observer, and one of the real characters in the media in our sport. But they did a great job in covering the event. And the course was honest, 30 minutes on a cross-country course for a guy like Jakob Ingebrigtsen was amazing. And the women's race, Caroline Grovedal and it was Merafta Bada, the Swedish woman, literally were within 1 to 9 meters most of the race. And it was a thrilling event. And I could see Jessie Judd, who I'm familiar with, she runs, she doubled in the 5 and 10 at the British Champs, and she's been around forever. She was duking it out with two, I think it was German women. It was Klosterhoffen, and so the way that whoever was directing the broadcast, we got to see this whole thing going on. So it wasn't just Caroline Grovedal and Bafta, and Bafta was putting it all in there. I mean, she had nothing left at the end, and Grovedal was just obviously wanting her first championship. That was a wonderful event. The men's race I thought was fantastic too. I watched the unders, today, and Charles Hicks, the Stanford's just up the block from us. I mean, about 20 minutes away. But I forgot that he was, from your country, and I won't hold it against him when I, see him in a race this spring. But I will, give him some trouble about something.
But just going back to Hannah England, I think she is superb as a co-commentator, because for me, she says the things that I want to know. She uses her expertise as an elite athlete to explain what's happening. A friend of mine who used to be a top tennis commentator used to say that he got frustrated with ex-players who would tell you where a tennis player was born and who his coach was. And my friend used to say, I would take him off the air, look, I can do that kind of stuff. Can you tell me why he's always serving to the backhand? Can you tell me why he's standing right at the back instead of coming in? Those are the things that you see and that I don't necessarily notice. And I think that Hannah England is brilliant at times interpreting races, explaining why someone is not going with the pace, what their approach is, and all that kind of thing. So I think she's really, really good. And incidentally, I think that everyone should know that she comes from Oxford.
Wow.
And she's run in 2 world championships.
Yep.
Coming 2nd and 4th.
She made the cover of Athletes Only in 2013 after Moscow. It was her and Mary Kane. And it's one of my favorite covers. It's just a beautiful shot. And you did a lovely piece about her when she retired. And no, I love her. And is it Mara Yamauchi, the marathoner? I thought that Mara's done some wonderful marathons with Steve Cram. I mean, Paula just does a great job. She's very poised. I also think, you got to get this in there, that sports TV broadcasting is still a guy's game. And the truth is, there are some amazing women announcers. They just need to be given the opportunity. It's like bringing women into coaching. Everybody goes, well, why aren't there more women coaches? Well, you got to give them role models, and there's some great women coaches out there. We just don't talk about them enough. And it's the same thing with sportscasters.
Now, it's almost as if you had set me up for this, or I'd set you up, but really we haven't. But Mara Yamuchi is also from Oxford.
Oh my gosh. Well, another clap.
6th in Beijing Olympics and 2nd in the London Marathon. And the fun fact about Mara Myers, as she was, why she's called Yamuchi is that her husband is Japanese. And when Margaret Thatcher did a state visit to Japan, Mara was her interpreter.
Wow. That's so cool. That's pretty impressive because Japanese is a terribly difficult language. And, for people who speak English, especially, our language is rather unsophisticated compared to others, but except, when you hear Americans really speak it poorly.
I think it helps, he would say, that if your spouse is Japanese.
That's probably helpful too. Well, my sister is married to a French chef, and she took 4 years of high school and college French, and she was the hostess in the restaurant they had for 20 years. And I just was there for Thanksgiving to see my great nephew, Nolan, my first mention today, who is, the coolest, great little nephew that anyone could have. But anyway, after a couple glasses of wine, Jeray and I just speak French, but Lulu and him speak French all the time, and she speaks like a native, but they've been doing it for almost 40 years, and it's just, learning the language and getting the time to do it on a daily basis is really, really key. But I just recall this. I watch Robin Williams when I'm editing sometimes on YouTube. And he was on this show called The Craig Ferguson Show, who was a Scottish comedian. And he was talking about speaking fluent French in Paris to this woman. And the woman just looked at him and pulled her cigarette out and just said, just go back to speaking English. Don't even try, And that's what I think about all the time when I would try to speak French. The guys at L'Equipe, Nicola, who is the editor there, he just looked at me and he go, Larry, would you just try to speak English? Okay. So we did it. But hey, the French did well too. Jimmy Gressier, they did in the men's race. They had a really tough team.
Yeah. But actually, if we want to talk about languages, I thought I could just drop into the conversation that I did an interview about 2 weeks ago with Malika Mahambo, and I chose to do it in German.
Wow. That's cool. Do you have a recording of that?
I do.
You should send it over. We'll put it up on SoundCloud too, because our German friends would love that. Because they tell me, you don't say too many nice things in German. I said, well, it's probably because I don't speak German, but Now that we know that you do, we'll feature it. What'd you think of Malika?
Um, I was impressed with her. I mean, sometimes agents can be difficult with interviews. I spoke to Malika in Zurich and said, "Would you do an interview with me?" And she said, "Probably." Speak to Tanya, who looks after interviews for me. And Tanya was an absolute delight to deal with. And it happened. And I was impressed with Malika. I mean, I hadn't quite spotted the way her year went because she she won the Olympic gold, but it was quite a struggle the year for her because she told me that when she switched from her shorter indoor run up to her longer outdoor one, she just couldn't get the rhythm, and she really was struggling with that, and felt she was running out of time to get it right for the Olympics, and of course won the Olympics with the last jump. And then she got injured and was out for 4 weeks. Felt probably that she should have just pulled down the curtain on her year, but decided to go on to Zurich, where she came, I think it was fifth. But she said to me, "I don't see that as a defeat, because I did the best I could given the lack of training and what I was struggling with." It's always nice that when an athlete makes that kind of comment, I think. And I had one thing I remember well from the interview is that Jonathan Edwards used to say that the best moment in the sport is when you're in second place with the last jump in the competition and you manage to pull it off, which is exactly what Malika did. Not quite the last jump, but the last round in Tokyo. And so I put that to her, and she said, "Yes, but to be honest, I don't have a problem with leading all the way through the competition. That's quite nice too."
Wow. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, I remember watching her in the European indoors, and she seemed to have some challenges there, but especially early on in the outdoor season, you could see that Malika was frustrated with herself because athletes know when they're on and they know when they're off, and they know when they're like this close, and it's got to be terribly frustrating, to them. Let's go back to the Eurocross for a little bit. In the U.S., unfortunately, most college cross-country courses are less than challenging. Over the last few years, the U.S. Track and Cross-Country Coaches Association and the NCAA coaches have seemed to reach a compromise, and they're making the courses a bit more challenging. So the real distance kids like a Connor Mance, can do well. I thought the course for the Europeans, again, loops, a small loop of 1,000, and then 5 or 6 loops of the 1,500 meters, was a good challenging course. And I think while it was within Ingebrigtsen's abilities, obviously, and he's quite fit, it was an honest course and it was challenging. Running 30 minutes, it's not running 27 minutes on a fast road course. So I'd like to see a few more hay bales and some water and some other things, like we've had in the past. But I'm curious, I see movies of courses from the UK all the time that are like, I was just watching one last night where a guy had to go back and get his shoe out of the mud, as 100 people are running around him. That's pretty typical, right?
Yeah, because I mean, our weather is pretty, I'm going to say pretty unpredictable. It's actually pretty predictable in winter, it's cold and wet. So, I mean, certainly going back to my running cross country at school and so on, it was certainly running through through mud a lot of the time, and certainly losing the shoe was possible. But for the purists within the sport, cross country is very big, and it's almost marathon-like when you see a mass start with everyone just going off together, and some people going far too fast, and just to try to get to the front. So I mean, I think within the sport in the UK, there is a very strong following for cross country. Some people would even prioritise it over the summer track and field. Going back to Ingebrigtsen, I loved his little comment about 10K is not really my distance. You go out and beat everybody in Europe, and then you casually drop it to the conversation that it's not really my distance.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Although, it was interesting. We posted a piece last night after we put up coverage of the cross, and then I'll have your pieces up this morning. But Matt Weisner, an 800-meter runner up at the University of Oregon, is writing for us, and he was able to get Gert Ingebrigtsen on the phone, and they were talking about training, and he said that the difference between Jakob and Philip and Philip and I'm trying to remember the other brother's name, the other two Ingebrigtsens, is that Jakob has stood up to Gert, and he's told him what he'll do and what he won't do. And apparently when Jakob was about 16, he was fond of this a girl that he had met in high school. And Gert told him, "You don't have any time for her. She can come back in 5 or 6 years." And I think Jakob, he told Matt that he said, "Look, I was observing how my brothers were treated with my dad, and I just can't do that." And he told his dad, "If I want to go out with her, I'm going out with her." And I think that changed the dynamic of the relationship. I spent some time with Gert in Dusseldorf in 19. We were just sitting in a bar working next to each other, and it was 11:30 at night. I think we're the only two gentlemen who were sober or semi-sober in the bar, both working on our computers. So we started to chat, and he said he didn't get to his regular work a lot of times till that time because he had to check on the guys, make sure they got their meals, hydrated, planning training the next day. And, I just got to throw in a couple questions like, "Well, do you have a training philosophy?" And he said he learns a lot from others and he controls the recovery, which is exactly what I had heard. The thing when you look at the Ingebrigtsens is that these guys can handle just about anything, and that Jakob is far from being at his best. I mean, he's incredible at 21, but that's because the kid's been doing cross-country skiing since he was 7 years old. He's got a VO2 max off the charts, and racing, and it's the only way, quite frankly, how do European kids compete with the Kenyans? They've got to be in better shape than the Kenyan kids, It's just a fact of life. And if you look at some of those workouts, I watched the Ingebrigtsen TV show. It's kind of like the Kardashian show in the U.S. It's really funny to watch. Stuart, have you got to watch it yet?
No.
It's on YouTube, and they're in their last season. And Gert had said in an interview a while back that they don't get much for sponsorship, but the way they're able to support their lifestyle is through this TV show. And they had access to everything, But you can see that the first priority is training, which is what it's got to be for athletes at that level,
Yeah. There's just two little reflections on Jakob. About 2-3 years ago, must be 3 years ago, since the last 2 years haven't existed. Jakob and his brothers were due to do a press conference in Stockholm, and then it was announced that their arrival had been delayed, and they would do their press conference at 9 p.m. that night. And my instant reaction was, well, they'll be tired, they'll come in, they'll answer 2 questions, and that'll be it. But in fact, Jakob, who was the one who was in demand, did a one-to-one with anybody who wanted it. And I just thought that was enormously impressive, that you're delayed, you're tired, but having said that you talk to people, I mean, I was about 8th in the line to talk to him, and he spoke to me as if I was the only person in the world. And Zurich this year, I was sort of waiting in the line, and he must have done a 15-minute in Norwegian in the mixed zone. And then he came to me, and again, he just stood with me, and he has this ability just to make you think you're the only person who's ever asked him the same question. So I think he handles himself brilliantly. I think he's a credit to the sport. He's a phenomenal talent, but he is a genuine, nice guy who gives back to the sport. So well done him.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that he is one of the good ones, and I'm fascinated to see where he goes. I've interviewed him and his brothers, and I just thought that European athletics did a great job. They have the biggest cross-country event globally of the year. And, you know, in past years, you've heard a lot of complaining about, well, you know, this team has this African emigre and has this athlete and this athlete. But you know what? It was nice to see the French do well. It was nice to see the Brits win 5 gold medals.
Yeah, five.
Yeah. And it was nice to see the Norwegians win too. Caroline Grovedal is a lovely athlete and a wonderful interview. And it's been great to see her come up through the ranks from the steeple to the fives. Jakob, you know, my heart was broken when he fell in the 5, or when he collapsed in the 5,000 in Doha. And to see what he's done now, it also shows that this guy's earned this stuff. And that's one of the thing that you were asking for other topics today. And my diatribe today is this. We've joked about this before, like with Yulimar Rojas in the triple jump, and with our friend Ryan Krauser. They make their events, which the shot in the triple jump are 2 of the most technical and physically demanding events in our sport. And their level of perfection, their level of quality with both of them is such that I don't think people appreciate it. You know, what Ryan did in breaking 2 world records, the indoor and the outdoor, Randy Barnes was a physical specimen. The guy was like, what, 6'8". I remember in 1989 spending time with him, and he was in a dirt shot put ring, kicking up dirt with my son, who was 3 years old then. And I was kind of going, God, this guy doesn't freak out being around kids. Wow. He doesn't seem like someone who's really tightly wound up. And we talked for 3 hours. I have the tapes about training and how muscles get tight and stuff like that. And you're just kind of going, wow. And Randy's the one who set the records and then was banned. And you got Ryan, who, you know, I've known Ryan's dad and his, I believe his uncles who competed back at my era in the 70s and 80s. And Ryan's a physical specimen himself, and he is so talented. And, you know, when he broke the world record indoors, I remember sitting there watching the meet. I was in Wisconsin, and they couldn't tell us on TV that it was the first American track series thing, and they were having some trouble. They couldn't tell us that it was the world record for 8 minutes, but you knew it was something big. And my girlfriend had not seen a track meet since 1976 when she watched me run a 2-mile in King City, California. And she looked at me and she goes, wow, that's huge, isn't it? And I said, yep. I said, I think that's the world record. And so then you get Ulamar, who, goes out and makes
Just,
15.
just before we leave, Ryan,
Yeah.
and of course, I spoke to Ryan a couple of weeks ago, and something he said I thought was quite fascinating. The world record that he broke, which had stood for 30 years, as he said, there were 7 Olympic champions in that time, and none of them managed to break the world record. That's the magnitude of the task that he had to break that world record.
Yeah. No, that's something that should be said. I mean, Ryan is amazing. He is one of the finest athletes. He is to the shot put what Bubka is to the pole vault. He's a physical genius and a technical genius, and he needs to be recognized as that. And so does Ulamar Rojas. I mean, Ulamar has done what Jonathan Edwards did to the men's triple jump. He put it out into the stratosphere. I mean, look at it. I mean, you and I thought that our friend Christian Taylor would get that record a couple years ago, and Will Clay and Pedro Pichardo, but Jonathan's marks, are still there, and are there for a reason, because they were incredible. That's what world record should be. And the next beef, and we've talked about this before. How much of it is running shoes and how much of it is better running? What do you think about the record stuff right now? I mean, you don't have that in the shot put. You really don't have that in the jumps. I'm not sure you have it in the sprints as much, but my gosh, in the distances, we've been rewriting marathon times and 10,000 meter times. And is it because people are training harder? Is it training harder nutrition and shoes? Is it the combination? What do you think it is?
Well, you see, let's go right back to 1954 and Roger Bannister running the first 4-minute mile. Roger Bannister was a full-time medical student, and he was running on a cinder track with a pair of very crude shoes. And everything has improved. I mean, the fascinating question is, what would Roger Bannister run if you could put him in a time machine and, put him into modern shoes, modern training methods? But what I conclude from this is that you just cannot compare eras. And of course the shoes help, but also the sophistication of training, rest, and all the rest of it helps. Being a full-time athlete compared to what some of the people years ago were doing helps. And I just somehow think we've got to get away from the comparisons. And also, dare we say it, in some cases, there are some world records that we are rightly suspicious of whether the athlete was clean at that time, because testing is much more sophisticated now. So, I mean, my conclusion is, yes, it's nice to compare times, but it's not a fair comparison and not a very meaningful comparison.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. I like that. We were also going to talk about COVID. I understand from an announcement from your kind Prime Minister that Great Britain has had its first Omicron death, and there's some big concerns there. What can you give us an update on?
Well, the numbers are very concerning. I mean, at an anecdotal level, I know far more people who've got COVID at the moment than at any stage previously. I believe that in Oxford, where I live, we're close to 900 per 100,000, whereas that's often been around 200. So it's sort of 4 times higher than it was perhaps a year ago. And nobody quite knows. I mean, again, as from today, people are being advised to work at home if they can. I mean, I am beginning to wonder whether I will be traveling in the early part of next year, or whether that won't be certainly with us. There's a lot more restrictions in terms of the number of tests you need to get. And I mean, one hears in different contexts about families cancelling their vacation because they can afford the vacation, but they cannot afford to have 4 tests for each member of the family.
Yeah. So is it the Omicron that is that's the newest
Yes.
type of addition to our pandemic?
Yes.
Is the and is that the one that you believe has just got UK terrified?
They say that by the end of the week, it will be the main strand in UK numerically. It was first detected, as I understand, in South Africa, and it seems, I mean, they're still gathering the data, but it seems to be more contagious. But it's not necessarily making you seriously ill. But I mean, an example of what's happening is that someone I know in Oxford, his daughter tested positive, and then he tested positive. He had to isolate for 10 days. And on the 9th day of his isolation, his wife got it. So there's a further 10 days. And, you know, it's just happening because it just seems to be very transmittable. But it seems that your likelihood of being in hospital or being very seriously ill or dying is not that great if you have been triple vaccinated. And that's what our government is doing at the moment, is that desperately trying to get everyone triple vaccinated by early January. But it certainly means that there are questions in terms of looking specifically at our sport. There are questions about how much traveling it would be sensible to do on the indoor season this year.
Sure. Yeah, and the Omicron is being seen all over the U.S. It is not the primary strain. We're still dealing with things such as outside of Springfield, Missouri, the state attorney general told county health groups to stop keeping track of information on COVID. And I just don't understand. This is as people are getting sicker and sicker. And I'm in California right now, and we're going to be going back to Wisconsin the end of January. And January's number and Wisconsin's numbers are terribly high again, because it's getting to be cold weather and more people are inside. And that seems to be part of the challenge, you know, but also Wisconsin is just under 50% vaccinated. And, you know, and then I read about the Baltic countries and they're like 12.5%. And I'm going, okay, what, you know, disinformation was passed on there. And are you going to go to the Manchester or the Birmingham indoor?
Well, I would hope so. We'll just have to see. I mean, I had hoped to go to Liévin in France. I'd hoped to go to the World Indoors. I'd hoped to go to the DNA meet in Glasgow, possibly a small meet in Manchester, the 2 meets, the trials and the Grand Prix in Birmingham. But I don't know. I mean, one will just have to make a choice as to how safe or dangerous it is. I mean, I went to London, which is an hour from Oxford, for the first time in 2 years last week. because there was an opportunity to have a free drink and to meet Ian Beattie and Mark Munro. And, just I suppose you could say, Larry, that the free drink swayed it for me.
What did you think of your first meeting with Mr. Monroe and Mr. Beattie?
I continue to be impressed with them. I think that Ian Beattie is a CEO of the law firm. He's a successful professional man, but he's very much a man of the sport, and he is. I mean, he was. You see him on social media at events most weekends. And I don't think he's doing this because he's the chairman. I think he's doing it because he wants to. And so I think I'm impressed with him. I'm also impressed with Mark Munro, who is, of course, at this stage, only the interim CEO for 6 months. Speculation as to whether that will be made permanent. Somebody said to me of him, 5 years from now, he would be the perfect CEO for British Athletics. Whether he's ready for it now is a question to which I don't know the answer because I don't know him well enough. But I feel very positive about him. I think that he's gone in and he's very much seems to be listening to people. I mean, in the piece that I wrote for you, I was struck on the briefing we had with them how they used the word support 27 times. We want to support athletes. We want to support events. We want to support coaches. We want to support the sport. So, there was this emphasis that the governing body was not there to tell people what to do, but to support initiatives that people are taking to facilitate it. So, I like their vision. Of course, we say the proof of the pudding is in the eating. They've got some great ideas and great plans. I would have confidence that they'll put it off, but in a way, we've got to wait and see.
No, I think that you're very correct. I'm glad that you've got to meet with them. I'm glad you were able to have a beverage. I'm looking forward to posting your cross-country pieces. And this is our last broadcast for 2021. So thank you so much, Stuart, for all your help and support this year. You are the most prolific writer on RunBlogRun, and you have survived 52 episodes this year with me. So good on you, And I look forward to seeing you, my friend, at some events, I hope, this next coming year. And a happy Christmas and a happy New Year to you. And a Merry and happy Christmas and holidays to all our viewers. Please stay safe, exercise, enjoy your families, and watch Athletics Chat and Socialing the Distance. This is Larry Eder with RunBlogRun. Stuart and I would like to thank Mike Deering for putting up with us all year. He's always quite charming. And while, I think that he and Stuart are going to have a coup and soon and change the name of the broadcast or something, I think they're being patient with me and giving me a little time to grow into this job. So, Stuart, thanks again. Mike, thanks for all your help. And a happy New Year.
Thank you.
Well, hello, sports fans. Larry Eder, RunBlogRun. This is Athletics Chat number 80, the epilogue clip. This is where I wax poetically on my lonesome, otherwise known as Larry's monologue. Today, Stuart and I, and I'm in San Jose, California, a rainy day in San Jose. And Stuart is in Oxford, England, the intellectual capital of the world, of course, as it was in the 11th century and 13th, and now the 21st. And we spoke about European cross-country championships. We spoke about COVID. We spoke about travel during COVID. We spoke about British athletics. First of all, The point that Stuart wants to get across is that Great Britain won 5 gold medals. That was fantastic. They had a team of 40. They really concentrated on it. What does it tell you? If a team really puts it in, they can do well. The French men's team won the senior title. Norway took both the men's senior with Jakob Ingebrigtsen and also Caroline Grovedal won her first senior women's gold medal. She's been on the podium. This will be her 6th time, but never winning the gold medal. She battled with Marif Bafta. Jess Judd of Great Britain, a very fine 5 and 10K runner, now being sponsored, I believe, by Hoka, 1-1. She led the senior women's team to their title, ran a brilliant race against Constance or Coco Klosterhoffen, and I forget who the other German athlete was in there too. But it was and it was wonderful. The broadcast was fantastic. European athletics really needs to get a pat on the back about the broadcast. Every time I watch one of the broadcasts from over here, I'm taken, and it was Hannah England and Cathal Dennehy. Cathal wrote for us for a long time. He is one of the most prolific writers, one of the true characters of the sport, loves track and field. His announcing was flawless. Great commentary, information that you didn't think about or know about, but you needed to know to understand. He added to the broadcast, and so did Hannah. And again, bravo. Stuart wanted to make sure, again, Great Britain won 5 gold medals. So I've now mentioned it twice. Is it Charlie Hicks from Stanford? Well, I didn't even know it was a Brit. And I won't hold it against you, Charlie, when I see you at a Stanford event. I'll say something nice, about the Queen and that whole thing. Anyway, congrats to Charlie on his under 23 title, I believe. And then, did I say Great Britain won 5 gold medals? So yeah, so I think that's the 3rd or 4th time I've got it in now. And then we started talking about COVID and I'm going to pronounce it right. Thank you to Mike Deering, the Omicron strain of the virus. In the U.S., they're still dealing with the Delta strain, but the Omicron is now coming into the news organizations, and people are starting to panic a little bit about that. But Stuart and I were talking about the smartness of trying to travel to track meets this coming season, and we're going to have to, even with the shots that we've had in the boosters, we need to be careful. And you could get stuck somewhere, quarantined somewhere, because you have the Omicron, which is apparently a little less lethal. The first person has died in Great Britain. I'm not sure if anybody's died in the U.S. yet, although they're saying that the Omicron was around in California a couple months earlier than we expected. So people, again, stay safe. Get your vaccinations, get your boosters, wear a mask, wash your hands. Washing your hands, wearing a mask, kind of things that could have done in the plague and kept people alive too. So think about it. If those are some of the simple acts you need to do, get some good hand sanitizer, take it everywhere. We wash our hands every time we get back into the car. Wash your mask. Be smart about things, okay? We just want you to stay safe. We're going to have some great indoor meets this season. We're hoping to go to the New Balance indoor into the Millrose Games end of January, early February. The Millrose Games will be at the New Balance Track and Field Armory up in Harlem, and the Fort Washington, excuse me. And then the New Balance indoor games, indoor Grand Prix, will be on Staten Island at the Ocean Breeze Athletics Facility. And we're looking forward to that as well. We're hoping to go to the Muscat Marathon, and we're hoping to see the World Indoor Champs in Belgrade. I'd like to do that because we've got a World Outdoor as well this year, as well as the European and the Commonwealth Games. So We'll keep our fingers crossed. This is the last broadcast of 2021. It's Athletics Chat 80 Epilogue. I wanted to thank everybody who's watched our broadcast. I wanted to thank Mike Deering, who is our production manager and who's managed this, all these things. I wanted to thank Mike and Adam Johnson-Eder for coming up with the idea of the Athletics Chat and of the Socialing the Distance. And I wanted to thank my brother, Brian Eder, who convinced me back in 2006 to start writing on RunBlogRun, which was a blog that idea he came up with. I think he started talking to me about it in 2005, and I didn't know where blogs were going yet, but I started writing in 2006 and could tell very soon that a lot of people were checking our stuff out. And please pass our things around, and please tell folks about RunBlogRun and about the Athletics Chat and about Socialing the Distance. And stay safe. Have a great holiday. Happy New Year. And we'll see you in the new year.